Social Security hasn't added a penny to our deficit. It is fully funded by payroll taxes from workers and employers. We pay for Social Security through every paycheck we ever earned. It's our money, and we're not going to let politicians use our Social Security savings to give tax breaks to millionaires and to big corporations. Here in Illinois, nearly 1 out of 6 residents receive Social Security. Without Social Security, 45% of Illinois seniors would be in poverty. 58% of Social Security recipients in Illinois are women. In Illinois, the average elderly women's Social Security check is $1,000 a month. $1,000 per month. Does anybody really think that's why we have a budget deficit? I can't believe the Republicans want to give tax breaks to every millionaire in big business they can find, but yet say we cannot afford that $1,000 check for the elderly woman here in Illinois. And these are the very same politicians who lecture us about values. So now we know what to do. We need to keep the pressure on Congress. Congress needs to know that we are keeping a close eye on them. We cannot allow politicians who have never liked Social Security or Medicare to use this budget climate as political cover for their ideological attacks on programs that have kept generations of seniors both healthy and out of poverty. And we need to educate our friends and our neighbors. You know, these budget debates can be overwhelming and frustrating. Lots of talk about millions and billions and trillions. Lots of yelling and screaming on cable TV. People just don't know who to believe anymore. We need to tell the people the truth about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. This year was the 76th anniversary of Franklin Roosevelt's signing of Social Security into law. And that was one of the greatest days in American history, but yet the Republican presidential candidates cannot stop thrashing it. So where to begin? Well, Mitt Romney wants to raise the retirement age and lower benefits, but doesn't think millionaires should pay their fair share in Social Security taxes. Rick Perry wants to turn Social Security over to the states, and he has called Social Security a Ponzi scheme, a tremendous lie, and he has said that by any measure, Social Security is a failure. Michelle Bachmann says that we need to wean everybody off Social Security because it is a tremendous fraud. Well, Michelle Bachmann, let me tell you who is the tremendous fraud. Many of us stood together in 2005 to stop George Bush from privatizing Social Security. He wanted to turn it over to Wall Street, but our work is still not done. Privatization is like the house guest that just won't leave. Congressman Pete Sessions of Texas, who runs the House Republican Campaign Committee, recently introduced a new bill to privatize Social Security. These private accounts would be tied to the stock market, making it a terrible risk for workers, many of whom have already lost much of their savings in the stock market and real estate price crashes. I want to ask those privatizers, how bad is your memory? Do you not recall all the chaos and the uncertainty on Wall Street this past decade? Can you imagine if George W. Bush had gotten his way? Can you imagine if Bernie Madoff, AIG, or the Lehman Brothers had been in charge of our Social Security? As we get ready for this super committee, privatizing Social Security is a risk very few of us can afford to take. Another bad idea that may surface on Capitol Hill this year is raising the retirement age. Raising the retirement age would be a terrible deal for workers. Nearly every Republican wants to raise the retirement age. House Speaker John Boehner wants it to be 70. Can you imagine working until you're 70? This makes you realize just how out of touch these people are. Working until you're 70 might be okay if you're John Boehner standing at a podium or sitting at a desk in Congress, or a Rush Limbaugh who just sits in front of his microphone. But for people in physically demanding jobs, it would be a very, very different story. A coal miner in the mines at 70, an iron worker on a beam 7 or 8 stories above the street, a 70-year-old nurse lifting a patient, it just isn't possible. Part of educating seniors about the super committee is telling them more about Medicaid. Many people aren't as familiar with Medicaid as they are with Medicare. But the reality is 70% of all nursing home and long-term care is paid for by Medicaid. Without Medicaid, seniors and their families would never be able to afford the care they need. And for Medicare, we cannot let the super committee get early Christmas gifts to big corporations. The big drug and insurance companies have always had a very different view of Medicare than the rest of us. They're willing to support anything that has seniors paying more and getting less. They loved the Ryan budget. The House approved this spring, the one that privatizes Medicare and forces seniors to go out and somehow buy private health coverage from an insurance company. That's not Medicare, that's corporate welfare. Last year, the top 5 health insurers combined for a total profit of $11.7 billion. They don't need any more help. Protecting Medicare will also mean defending the health care law that we helped pass last year. I know that law wasn't perfect, but it did make many good changes for seniors. It lowers the cost of prescription drugs. It closes the donut hole coverage gap in Medicare Part D, where many seniors pay their premiums but yet get no coverage. It ends the wasteful taxpayer subsidies to the big insurance companies, and it provides free annual checkups and tests for serious diseases. But despite all of that, many people don't like this law. To me, it's because the other side succeeded in scaring the daylights out of people. Did you know that in a poll of Florida seniors, 36% believed that the law contains those so-called death panels that Sarah Palin warned us about? Can you believe that? Even though we made some real big progress to help seniors, 1/3 of them believe the law is going to kill them. Yes, there are death panels. They are in the executive offices of the insurance companies because they will decide if your life They're going to decide if your life-saving medication is too expensive for them to approve or if the proposed surgery is too expensive for them to okay. Every day, they decide whether you live or die. Well, we worked hard for this law. It's something we ought to be proud of. But if we don't stand up and do something, I'm worried that this new super committee might do away with all we have accomplished. So as we head into the next few months of debate on Capitol Hill, and as we gear up for the 2012 elections, we clearly have our hands full. During this critically important time, I'd like to see Alliance state and local chapters share some of their ideas. There's a lot we can learn from each other. For example, Washington State and Colorado retirees have gone to college campuses to help educate students on the future of Social Security. Our California Alliance recently put together a book for their senators. It was a collection of very powerful first-person accounts of what Social Security means to retirees. In New Hampshire, Alliance members are following Republican presidential candidates around the state, calling attention to their anti-senior positions. In Wisconsin, Ohio, and Indiana, Alliance members are standing with embattled public workers to support those who help make our communities stronger and safer. In Arizona, the State Alliance is creatively using Facebook and YouTube to reach more people and share information more quickly. Our Florida Alliance members have been organizing a series of town hall forums, partnering with public interest groups and community leaders to educate retirees on local, state, and national forums. These are just a few examples of how here in Illinois and across the country, the Alliance has helped to build an energetic grassroots movement to help current and future retirees, and I thank you for all that you do in that regard. In closing, I know there's a lot going on these days, and it can be pretty overwhelming. But to me, what our battles have in common is that powerful, well-financed interests are trying to take away all that we built for this country. The fact is we cannot trust the Tea Party or Wall Street with our Social Security. We cannot trust most governors with our collective bargaining rights. We cannot trust John Boehner and the big insurance companies with our Medicare. So as we get ready for next year's elections, let's face up to reality. How do you think that all those Republican congressmen and senators and governors got elected last fall? They got elected because many older folks voted for them, including some of our fellow union retirees. It was a painful reminder that we must stay strong and stay united. Labor and community retirees have much in common. We must stay united and not let the other side play the politics of divide and conquer. We must stay strong and united to save Social Security and Medicare. We must stay strong and united to make sure that health care is a basic human right and not something rationed out by the big insurance companies. We must stay strong and united to preserve Social Security for our children and our grandchildren so they won't have to work every single day of their lives. We must stay united to make sure that next year's elections turn out better than last fall's. The other side will once again try to scare us, they'll lie to us, but if we stay united, we can make sure they will not win. All of you are my brothers and sisters for life. We've been through many wars together, and right now we are in the middle of another one. But I have reason for hope. I have such great faith in all of you and in Alliance members everywhere. Yes, we are indeed facing some very steep challenges right now. But you know what? Our fighting spirit burns stronger than ever. And if you promise to take the fight to the streets of Illinois, I promise to take that fight to Congress for you.